Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into the heart of the Jamaican agricultural market today.
Yeah, we've got the latest market data, the analysis, all shared by you, our listener.
Exactly, and we're looking specifically at price trends, volatility, key movements, all for the week ending May 24th, 2025. Just wrapped up.
Right. And the goal here for this deep dive is really to unpack what it all means. Not just numbers, but, what's the story for farmers, for buyers?
For anyone interested in this market, really, and context is key, isn't it? This week makes more sense when you look at the week before, ending May 16th.
Definitely. So maybe let's quickly rewind and set that scene first. We'll call the big picture from that prior week.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Week ending May 16th, the sources were saying stable overall. Average price change was small, right?
Yeah.
Less than 1% up.
Stable on average, yes. But, and this is the crucial bit, underneath that apparent stability, significant volatility. Like really high,
Yeah.
over 43%.
Wow. Okay, so the average looks okay, but individual crops were just all over the place.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Swinging wildly up and down, calm surface, turbulent underneath, as you said.
And there were worries flagged back then, too, weren't there? The usual suspects.
Looming hurricane season, always a concern. Those ongoing global input costs, fertilizer, feed.
Yeah, persistent problem. And imported food inflation hitting local prices.
Exactly. Those external pressures were very much on the radar.
Yeah.
But there were also opportunities identified.
Right, like tourism coming back stronger. That was expected to boost demand, wasn't it? Especially for maybe higher end stuff.
Correct. And potential government support, maybe focusing on premium crops. So a mix of risks and potential upsides.
Okay, so let's talk specifics from that week, May 16th, because that's where it gets really interesting. Big drops first. Gungo peas.
Oh yeah, green Gungo peas, a staple, took a massive hit, down over 40%.
40%. The analysis reckoned that was probably just too much supply.
Yeah, seems like an oversupply correction flooding the market. Then you had the sweet peppers, which were confusing.
Yeah. Greenhouse red sweet pepper dropped sharply, especially, I think, in Kingston.
It did. But then, and this is wild, regular local red sweet pepper surged, like up over 35%.
And that surge was driven by demand in the same place, Kingston.
Exactly. So not just a simple price change. It really depended on the type of pepper and exactly where you're looking.
Fascinating. Green sweet pepper was also unstable, dropped across the board. And then you had, seasonal things, watermelon down after Easter.
Yep, typical seasonal dip for watermelon. And imported stuff like cantaloupe seemed to show less demand too.
Okay, but it wasn't all doom and gloom. What went up, besides that local red pepper?
Well, local romaine lettuce kept climbing. That was a consistent upward trend, actually.
Right, I remember that being flagged as maybe an investment opportunity. Greenhouses, perhaps?
Potentially, yeah. And white yam, or Lucy yam, also showed really strong growth, up over 16%. Good local and export interest there.
Okay. And turmeric, that had a weird spike, didn't it?
It did. A sharp rise, particularly in St. James, doubled in price there. Suggests maybe health food trends kicking in or some niche market thing.
And even imported broccoli, which is usually pricey, saw demand go up.
Yeah, a noticeable boost.
Yeah.
So you see the picture, big winners, big losers, all contributing to that high volatility number, even though the average price was kind of flat.
Got it. So summing up that week ending May 16th, sentiment, neutral, supply, balanced-ish, but patchy regionally, stability, highly volatile.
Exactly. Key takeaways were really that erratic sweet pepper behavior.
Up here, down there.
Right. The strength in yam and local lettuce, things to watch. That Gungo peas price drop maybe being an opportunity for processors or exporters.
Right, if they could buy low.
Potentially. And just that extreme volatility and other things too, like string beans, Scotch bonnet, West Indian red pepper, over 70% volatility for some.
Wow. And the regional differences were huge.
Oh, absolutely critical. Some parishes, like St. Catherine, were showing just wild swings. We're talking volatility over 140%, average price jumps over 100% in some cases.
That's insane compared to somewhere like St. Elizabeth or St. James, which were much calmer.
Much calmer, yeah.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, around 22, 23% volatility there. So a massive contrast across the island.
So week one recap. Risks, hurricanes, input costs, confusing peppers, opportunities, maybe arbitrage on those peppers, investing in yam lettuce, processing gungo peas.
Turmeric, broccoli interest.
Yeah.
It was a market that demanded Well, agility. You had to be watching the data closely.
Definitely navigating a mix of mild average growth, extreme choppiness, and these very specific localized opportunities.
Which brings us, nice transition, right into the data for the week we're focusing on now,
Yeah.
ending May 24th.
Yeah.
What's the story this past week?
Right. Okay, shifting gears, the latest numbers, overall picture. Actually kind of similar in vibe, sentiment, still neutral. Volatility, still high.
Still high, but down a bit.
Down slightly, yeah. From 43.5% the week before to 38.2% this week. So still quite choppy, but maybe a touch less frantic than the previous week.
Okay, 38.2%. Still significant. So what were the big movers upwards this past week, May 24th?
It's top of the list, standout performer. Imported cauliflower, it's surged dramatically. Over 31% price jump.
Wow, 31% for imported cauliflower. That screams either a supply issue, right? Imports disrupted.
Could be. Or maybe a sudden demand spike. Hotels, maybe.
Yeah.
Urban areas. It's pricey stuff.
True. What else climbed?
Local carrots kept going up steadily, another 12.2% increase this week.
Okay, so consistent domestic demand there.
Huh?
Maybe supply tightening in some regions. Carrots looking like a reliable staple.
Seems like it. And another staple, local green bananas, up nearly 12% as well.
Green bananas, okay. Core food item. Interesting, though, the Summer Insight flags green bananas as highly volatile this week.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Even a basic staple like that can swing around. Maybe economic pressures are amplifying reliance, pushing prices.
Could be. Or just localized supply hiccups. What else?
Local pineapple, specifically the Cowboy variety, climbed about 7.75%.
Cowboy pineapple.
Okay. Seems like regional boosts played a role there, especially noted in St. Thomas. Suggests maybe localized supply improvements or perhaps niche demand for that variety.
Got it. And local cauliflower. Did that follow the imported trend?
It saw growth too, yeah, up over 6%. Not the huge leap like the imported one, but it does suggest, broader interest in these healthier veg options across different markets.
Okay, so some significant climbers. Now let's flip it. What about the top decreasing commodities for the week ending May 24th?
Biggest drop. Imported romaine lettuce, a shark dive, down 33.33%. A third of its price gone.
Wow, okay, hold on. That's the complete opposite of the local romaine trend from the week before, right? Local was climbing.
Exactly. This huge drop in imported romaine suggests, either way too much came in, oversupply, or consumers balked at the previous price.
Yeah, feels like an oversupply or demand drop-off.
Yeah.
Maybe a short-term buy opportunity for restaurants or processors.
Could be. What else fell? Local greenhouse green sweet pepper, down 20%.
20%? Okay, still in the pepper zone. Why the drop there?
Analysis pointed to a regional glut. Too much supply hitting markets like St. Mary and St. Anne, basically, without enough immediate demand to absorb it.
Right. Localized oversupply again. Makes sense.
Local sorrel also dropped, about 8.3%. That feels seasonal, maybe? Winding down post-peak?
Yeah, likely seasonal, transitioning into summer.
And local sweet potato prices slipped too, down about 8%. But again, regional story is key here.
How so?
Well, in Clarendon, sweet potato prices apparently plummeted by over 40%.
40% drop in one parish. Whoa. That really points to localized market saturation, doesn't it? Or maybe storage problems leading to losses.
Could be either, yeah. And finally, local thyme declined nearly 7%, again, driven by uneven regional performance. St. Elizabeth, St. Thomas mentioned specifically.
Those regional variations, they
Yeah.
keep popping up, don't they?
They really do. And speaking of variations, let's talk volatility this week. Still a major theme.
Oh yeah, dominant theme. And the list of most volatile includes some familiar faces. Greenhouse, local red sweet pepper, despite only a tiny price gain this week, like 2%.
Yeah. Extreme volatility again, 81.54%.
81%. So predicting the price for that is basically impossible right now.
Seems like it. Probably that mix of, inconsistent greenhouse yields and these unpredictable local demand surges just making it incredibly choppy.
Okay. What else is on the volatile list?
Local green sweet pepper, also highly volatile, over 80%, and it actually fell in price this week, about 4.6%.
Right. And those regional swings, like you mentioned, that big drop in St. Mary,
Yeah, down like 53% there.
that really highlights maybe distribution bottlenecks or spoilage issues messing with stable pricing across the island.
Definitely. Greenhouse, local yellow sweet pepper, modest gain, up less than 3%, but still high volatility, nearly 70%.
Suggests maybe consumer hesitancy or inconsistent supply. Sellers aren't sure where to price it.
Could be. And just to round out the peppers, regular local red sweet pepper, not greenhouse, also dropped this week about 3.3%. It just emphasizes the whole colored pepper segment is, unstable.
Very unstable. Any non-peppers on the highly volatile list?
Nah, Scotch bonnet hot pepper. It was volatile last week, it's volatile again this week.
Ah, of course. How did its price move overall?
Tiny change overall, down less than 2%, but that hides these wild regional swings again. Down 25% in St. Elizabeth,
Okay.
but up 25% in St. Thomas.
Wow. So it's like a postcode lottery for Scotch bonnet prices.
Pretty much. So the summary insight for this week, May 24th, it really pulls this together. Neutral sentiment holds, despite that persistent high volatility, still at 38.2%.
And based on the data, what looks like a safer bet for farmers right now?
Imported cauliflower, despite its jump, and local green bananas are highlighted as relatively strong strategic bets.
Okay. And on the flip side, where's the risk?
Imported lettuce after that crash, and green sweet peppers seem to carry more risk of overexposure, unless managed really smartly.
Right. Like focusing on bulk distribution, finding outlets, maybe value-added processing to handle potential gluts.
Exactly. And those hot peppers and colored sweet peppers are still firmly in the handle with extreme caution category.
Just too unpredictable week to week, region to region. That's a clear trend across both weeks we've looked at.
Absolutely. If you connect the dots, you really see these patterns. Sweet peppers colored, hot constant volatility, highlighting how crucial those regional markets are.
And yam and local lettuce showing those sustained upward trends over the 2 weeks. That's encouraging for local production, isn't it?
It is. And you also see how quickly major corrections can happen, like that Gungo peas dip in week 1. It shows how fast things can shift.
Understanding these details, not just the price change, but the why behind it. The volatility, the local versus imported difference, those regional factors, it's so important.
It's more than just data points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's insight into how the whole food system is behaving, reacting to everything from, weather worries to what folks are actually buying at their local market.
It really does paint a picture of a very dynamic market, constantly shifting, lots of moving parts.
Definitely. And looking back across both weeks, May 16th and May 24th, maybe the biggest single takeaway is just that. The consistent presence of high volatility, even when average prices seem fairly stable.
Yeah. That contrast is striking. And the different stories for local versus imported versions of the same crop, like we saw with lettuce.
That's another key point, and you just can't overstate the importance of those regional differences. They're driving so much of the price action, creating these pockets of opportunity or risk.
We saw specific crops emerge as bright spots or concerns each week, but those underlying themes of volatility and regionality seem constant.
They do, which leads to a really interesting thought, doesn't it?
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking about you, the listener, reflecting on all this. Given these really pronounced regional variations and this stubborn volatility we've seen, especially in key things like sweet peppers,
Right.
how might something like, technology, or maybe just better, smarter logistics across the island, how might that play a role?
In creating maybe a more stable, more predictable market.
Exactly. Something that benefits both the farmers growing the stuff and the consumers buying it. Could better information flow or transport smooth out some of these bumps?
That's a great question. How do you bridge those regional gaps and maybe calm some of that volatility?
Something to mull over, definitely, as you navigate this fascinating, complex world of the Jamaican agricultural market.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.